This is tape number ET7 from the library of the Howard Thurman Educational Trust. Two meditations by Howard Thurman. This is side 1, entitled Jesus, His Contribution.
Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Since this is the beginning of Lent, I want to read a meditation from the Inward Journey and make a comment. In many ways, beyond all calculation and reflection, our lives have been deeply touched and influenced by the character, the teaching, and the spirit of Jesus of Nazareth. He moves in and out upon the horizon of our days like some fleeting ghost. At times when we are least aware and least prepared, some startling clear thrust of his mind is our portion. The normal tempo of our ways is turned back upon itself, and we are reminded of what we are and of what life is. Often the judgment of such moments is swift and silencing. Sometimes his insight kindles a wistful longing in the heart, softened by the muted cadence of unfulfilled dreams and unrealized hopes. Sometimes his words stir to life long-forgotten resolutions, call to mind an earlier time when our feet were set in a good path and our plan was for holy endeavor. Like a great wind, they move, fanning into flame the burning spirit of the living God, and our leaden spirits are given wings that sweep beyond all vistas and beyond all horizons. There is no way to balance the debt we owe to the Spirit which he let loose in the world. It is upon this that we meditate now in the gathering quietness. Each of us in his own way finds the stairs leading to the holy place. We gather in our hands the fragments of our lives, searching eagerly for some creative synthesis, some wholeness, some all-encompassing unity, capable of stilling the tempests within us and quieting all the inner turbulence of our fears. We seek to walk in our path, which opens up before us, made clear by the light of his Spirit and the radiance which it casts all around us. We join him in the almighty trust that God is our Father and we are his children living under the shadow of his Spirit. Accept the offering of our lives, O God. We do not know quite what to do with them. We place them before thee as they are, encumbered and fragmented, with no hints, no suggestions, no attempts to order the working of thy Spirit upon us. Accept our lives, our Father. Work them over, correct them, purify them. Hold them in thy focus, lest we perish and the spirit within us dies. Many years ago, a book was written in which this line occurs. Men may come to God through nature, men may come to God through other good men. But he who seeks God with all of his heart will somewhere in his quest encounter Jesus. If I were to summarize in short and narrow compass what seems to me to be the significance of the impact which he has upon the world, it would be stripped of what is formally recognized as systematic Christologies or theologies or dogmas, stripped to the literal substance of itself. There are three things that stand out in my thought. One is that he, Jesus, did give to the world in creative summary and compass the vision of a great ideal. And that ideal, very simply put, is built upon the compact structure of the primary family unit. For he insisted that all men are children of God, and as children of God, they have a common father. There is one family, and that is the human family, and the thing that is binding is intrinsic and inherent in the very nature of being itself. The vision of a great ideal that all men everywhere, in every clime, every class, every background, every affirmation, all men are members of one family. And the second important and searching contribution which he gives growing out of that is that there is a way of living that underscores and highlights and even dramatizes, if you please, how this family concept can be implemented at the level of the individual with his aspirations and his hopes and his dreams and his fears. And he said that the method, the technique, the process, the procedure, the way, the spirit that makes it possible for the dream, which is literal in the mind, may be reduced to literal fact or expressed as literal fact. And he called this way, this procedure, this mood, this spirit, this technique, this skill, this art, he called it love. And to love means to deal with a member of the family of God at a point in that person that is beyond all of his faults and all of his blemishes and all of his virtues, to deal with him totally, to encompass him, so that within the sweep of your caring, all aspects of his life may be exposed without in turn his being threatened by this exposure. And he said that to be loved is to have a sense of being dealt with at a point in oneself that is beyond all of one's virtues and beyond all of one's fault, a sense of being completely and thoroughly understood and dealt with gently and cared for, tenderly and spontaneously and deliberately. Not only did he suggest this technique by which the dream can become instant fact, but he also suggested and made manifest in his living religious experience a resource that is available to the individual member of the family that will enable him to carry out this, to endure as he works out the fulfillment of the dream by through the manifestation of the technique. And he said, this source is God. And he said that God is very close. He said that God is the ground of life, the creator of life, the creator of the living substance, the creator of existence. And he suggested three things: that God is, that when he prayed, even though the prayers are translations of translations of translations of translations as we read them in the Bible, when we read them, we have a sense that when he prayed, he was sure that he was talking to somebody. He met somebody. He had a personal encounter. And the second thing that his faith taught him was that God is near, not way off somewhere, high above the earth, in the heavens, looking down upon man, but that God is a living part of the very stuff of life, close at hand. Speak to him thou, for he heareth, and spirit with spirit may meet. Closer is he than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. And then he also felt that God was love, that the universe is not some cold, impersonal manifestation of energy and power, but that God the Creator is also God the Father, close as breathing and yet very tender and caring. And why did he seize upon this notion of love as the key to God? Because when a man loves, he will do for his beloved what no power on earth, in heaven, or hell can make him do without love. This is his contribution to our time. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer.
This is tape number ET7 from the library of the Howard Thurman Educational Trust. Two meditations by Howard Thurman. This is side 2, entitled The Triumphant Entry.
Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Next Sunday is a very important Sunday in the Christian calendar. It is the Sunday of the Triumphant Entry of the Master into Jerusalem. I would like to read as a background for our thinking about this from the Inward Journey. Searching indeed must have been the thoughts moving through the mind of the master as he jogged along on the back of the donkey on that fateful day which marks in the Christian calendar the Triumphant Entry. The experience must have been as strange and out of character for him as it was for the faithful animal on whose back he rode. For more than 2 years, Jesus had been engaged in a public ministry. Once, when there were those who wanted to make him a king, he had refused. "My kingdom is not of this world," he said. He had walked the countryside with his band of disciples, preaching, teaching, healing, and spreading a quality of radiance that could come only from one whose overwhelming enthusiasm was for God and his kingdom. He had kept many lonely trysts in the late watches of the night, truing his spirit and his whole life by the will of his Father. So close had he worked with God that the line of demarcation between his will and God's will would fade and reappear, fade and reappear. Step by resolute step, he had come to the great city. Deep within his spirit, there may have been a sense of foreboding or the heightened quality of exhilaration that comes from knowing that there is no road back. He had learned much. So sensitive had grown his spirit and the living quality of his being that he seemed more and more to stand inside of life, looking out upon it as a man who gazes from a window in a room out into the yard and beyond to the distant hills. He could feel the sparrowness of the sparrow, the leprosy of the leper, the blindness of the blind, the crippleness of the cripple, and the frenzy of the mad. He had become joy, sorrow, hope, anguish, to the joyful, the sorrowful, the hopeful, the anguished. Could he feel his way into the mind and the mood of those who cast the palms and the flowers in his path? Was he in the cry of those who exclaim their wild and unrestrained hosannas? Did he mingle with the emotions that lay beneath the exaltations, ready to explode in the outbursts of the mob, screaming, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" I wonder what was at work in the mind of Jesus of Nazareth as he jogged along on the back of the faithful donkey. Perhaps his mind was far away to the scenes of his childhood, feeling the sawdust between his toes in his father's carpenter's shop. He may have been remembering the high holy days in the synagogue with his whole body quickened by the echo of the ram's horn as it sounded. Or perhaps he was thinking of his mother, how deeply he loved her and how he wished that there had not been laid upon him the great necessity which sent him out on the open road to proclaim the truth, leaving her side forever. It may be that he lived all over again that high moment on the Sabbath when he was handed the scroll and he unrolled it to the great passage from the prophet Isaiah. "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor, to open the eyes of the blind, to unstop the ears of the deaf, to announce the acceptable year of the Lord." I wonder what was moving through the mind of the Master as he jogged along on the back of the faithful donkey. One day, when the Master and his disciples were going along a country road, a man suddenly appeared, a man with a look of derangement in his face, his hair disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. There was a stare in those bloodshot eyes, and he looked here and there, his eyes dancing in some kind of frenzy. And then closer scrutiny observed that dangling from his wrists were broken chains, and from his ankles the same. And when he saw the master, he spoke. And when he spoke, the master asked him a question. Who are you? What is your name? And for a moment, just a swirling moment, a look of sanity came across his face, and his mind that was tilted righted itself temporarily. And he said, I don't know. This is my great problem. If I knew who I was, or if I know who I am, then I could be whole. There are so many of me, and they riot in the streets. Their name is Legion. If I knew my own name, then I would know who I am and who God is. Now the gift, the rare and extraordinary gift of the Master, the gift that gives him in some amazing way a place that places him at the center of much of the imagination and aspiration and praise of a large section of the human race was the sense that because he knew where he was, knew what his sense of mission, purpose, sense of goal were, what was his aim, what was the integrity of himself, because he was so secure within this. He was able to enable other people to find for themselves this same quality. So I wonder then, as he rode along at the Triumphant Entry, when all the people were casting down their flowers and praising him and saying the hosannas, I wonder, did he feel secure in that? Did he feel flattered by it? Did he feel, oh yes, the people are right? Or did he wait for this approval? Now, if he felt secure in what he was doing, independent of the hosannas, then a few days after, when the same crowd began saying, not hosanna, but crucify him, kill him, he would still be secure. Because his sense of the presence of his Father was not contingent upon whether they said Hosanna or whether they said crucify him. And it is this, I think, certainly for me, that makes me call him Master, that he was so secure in his relationship with God that he was not dependent for his emotional sense of well-being upon the affirmation or the condemnation of the crowd. So that near the end, when he's alone in the garden and his disciples, 3 disciples, are sleeping, and he prays and he comes back and he finds that they are asleep, he said, that's all right, sleep. I am not really, in essence, dependent upon your yes or your no. Now I ask myself, even as I ask you, as we think about the meaning of this event in the Christian year, in what is your security? Is it contingent upon the approval of X or Y or Z, or stripped to the literal substance of yourself? Do you feel that God gives to your life his approval? And if so, nothing else matters. If God is for you and you are for him, who can be against you? Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer.
This program was pre-recorded.